And a very pleasant good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the campus of Brevard College. We're here in Tornado Alley, right in the center of the BC campus, and very special press conference that we're also streaming live via our YouTube channel this afternoon. And the reason for it is the Brevard College cycling team is heading to the USA Cycling Collegiate Mountain Bike National Championships. Those begin Thursday at nearby Ride Rock Creek in Zirconia, North Carolina. Just to give you some perspective, that's just 23 miles away from campus here at Brevard College. We have some very special guests with us this afternoon to preview the national championships. First with us, to my immediate left, is head coach Brad Purley, and we'll get things started with you, Coach. The whole idea of this national championships occurring so close to home, I know it's a big opportunity for the Tornadoes. Tell us a little bit about the opportunity and also the preparation thus far for the team.
For sure, yeah. Like you said, it's 20-something miles away. It's 35, 40 minutes drive from campus. So not only is it the first time on the East Coast since 2017 when we were in West Virginia, but we've never had a national championship this close to us for mountain bike. So we're extremely excited about that. With it comes, I think, as close as you can get to a home course, home field type advantage. So just in the fact that our students, they're going to be sleeping in their dorm rooms on campus. We're going to be commuting back and forth every day. And we've also gotten a chance to see the courses already. So unlike previous years, kind of the usual deal where we're driving across the country, whether it be California, Montana, Colorado, very, very far away, we get to stay here and train and rest the best we can to get ready for the event. We have 20 students racing in total, which is the most we've ever had. So we're going to be maxing out our starters for every event, which is really different for us too. Normally we don't do that when we're doing such long travel. And I think it does provide that extra little bit of motivation for our student athletes to really want to, perform at the highest level here.
Outstanding, appreciate that. Head coach Brad Purley. Also with us is Owen Clark. Owen is a junior from Ontario. Last season he finished on the podium for the National Championships Individual Omnium, and this year he has been racing on a World Cup circuit that also included the UCI Mountain Bike World Championships over in Europe. So you've been traveling quite a bit, Owen. Now you're back at home at Brevard College and ready to head to the Collegiate Mountain Bike National Championships nearby. Tell us a little bit about your fall and how it's all kind of accumulated with you arriving back here at Brevard College for these collegiate championships.
For me, I think the fall season with the collegiate mountain bike stuff is almost like the funnest part of the whole year, because it's a little different coming from the summer, because mountain biking is a very individual sport. It's like you're always kind of racing for yourself. So if during those, if I'm racing a World Cup during the summer, it's like you're staying with the team, sometimes you're representing your country, but it's still you kind of are missing that team sport element. And I think that's what I enjoy so much about the collegiate season, because you come in from a really hectic summer, traveling everywhere, and then you get to kind of settle into this community of people who are kind of just like you, and you get to race with them and have fun on the weekends. And when Nationals comes around, it might be my favorite weekend of the whole year. This weekend's going to be it's going to be probably better than the last two, just because it's home. I can't wait for it. The fall's been going really well for me. Just got back from some great more World Cups in North America. Usually they're in Europe, but it's been good, and I'm very excited.
Outstanding. Owen Clark, junior from Ontario. Also with us is Cole Punchard, also a junior from Ontario up in Canada. He's the defending individual Omnium national champion from last year's collegiate championships in Durango, Colorado. For those who aren't aware what the term individual omnium is, that's the best overall rider, so he was able to win the national championship there. Cole, I know you've been looking forward to being able to race again in the collegiate national championships here in our backyard. Tell us about your preparation and what you're looking most forward to.
Preparation has been a little bit different this year compared to others. I sustained an injury to my hand at World Champs, so I've been like doing a lot of rehab and everything to get that back better. So it's been a lot of trainer work and just on the road bike, but I've had a couple days back on the mountain bike, just some smoother trails, so it's yeah, super excited to be back on the mountain bike.
Outstanding. Cole Punchard, junior from Ontario. Also with us is Kiera Lilac, who's a sophomore, also from Ontario, and this will be your first collegiate mountain bike national championships, is that correct? So that being said, and I'm sure you've been talking to your teammates quite a bit, tell us about your level of excitement of racing this week in the collegiate nationals.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I only had the chance to do a couple collegiate races this season due to like races outside of school, but yeah, they're so much fun, and like Owen said, the team environment. So and like having it so close to the campus is pretty sweet for the first time, like for me doing it. So yeah, I'm super excited.
Very good. That's Kiera Lilac, sophomore at Brevard College, and with us as well, Nicole Bradbury, sophomore, Hamilton, Ontario. Perhaps you all are noticing a bit of a theme here. Nicole raced in last year's collegiate championships as well. Is that correct?
I attended, but I couldn't race.
Okay, so you made the trip, but you didn't actually race. But so this will be your first time racing in a collegiate mountain bike national championships. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I'm pretty excited about it because I did feel like I was missing out a little bit last year. It was fun being there with the team and doing a 2.5-day drive to Durango, but it did kind of suck to miss out on it, like the actual racing part. So.
Very good. Well, can't wait to see you in action as well, Nicole Bradbury, sophomore here at Brevard College. If we can pass the microphone back to Coach Brad Purley. Coach, would like to talk a little bit about Ride Rock Creek, this facility that's hosting the national championships this week, beginning Thursday. Naturally, not far from us here at Brevard College. We're the closest college, who's going to be competing in the race in terms of geographical, proximity. But tell us a little bit about the facility and kind of how this came to be for the national championships to be held right here in the mountains of Western North Carolina.
Yeah, so the venue itself is relatively new. They've only been open, less than 2 years now. So the first big event they hosted that really kind of put them on the map nationally is a mountain bike location was this summer. They hosted the open U.S. national championships for gravity, so for downhill enduro and dual slalom, which is a very large event in itself. So that was the first big event they've done. Collegiate nationals, of course, will be a second. There'll be a lot of teams, a lot of athletes, a lot of spectators, just supporters and whatnot. So it'd be interesting to see, and hopefully, I think it's going to go well from a kind of a logistics standpoint, because we're hoping, that they extend the contract to next year as well. Hopefully, we get to do this, 2 years in a row. But yeah, it's a really kind of classic North Carolina venue where it's going to have a lot of that loamy soil roots. Not a lot of rock really out in that particular location, but. Yeah, right now it's very, very dry just because we haven't had a lot of rain lately. So I think a lot of our team is hoping for some rainfall to kind of add the mud and slick element, but I'm not sure that's going to happen. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, not many teams have had a chance to really check out the courses and tracks out there. Fortunately, we have been able to a little bit. So yeah, we're excited to see how it races.
Appreciate that. Also, do want to give our audience a little bit of mountain bike racing 101 while we've got all these experts here with us. And what we'd like to do is take our audience through each event that's going to be taking place, the different disciplines at Ride Rock Creek at the national championships. There's 4 of them in total as far as individual disciplines, and we'll get to the 5th event as well. But let's start with Owen. And Owen, why don't you tell us about one of the disciplines you'll be racing in, cross country. Describe that to the best of your ability.
Yeah, so basically, cross country is it's my favorite event. It's what I'm do the most. Basically, you have let's say a big group of riders, let's say 50 people, and essentially it's you ride this loop, and there's probably, usually it's pretty short, it's maybe 3-4 kilometers, lots of trails, climbs. It's if you think of cycling, you can sometimes think of road cycling because that's probably a little bit more popular. But mountain biking, it's like mostly on trails, so you can climb a trail, descend a trail, and it's not just going up or just going down. It's like cross country, so it's both. But it's around like an hour, hour and a half race, and it's like whoever crosses the finish line first wins. Yeah, it's pretty fun. Like it's cool because it's not just about how fast you are at climbing or how fast you are pedaling. It's a lot of skill that goes into it as well. So it's like a mix of what lots of people enjoy about mountain biking, which is like the mountain biking, the rocks, the roots, the techie stuff, and then also people who enjoy pushing themselves from a fitness perspective. So it's like a good, fun mix for people like me who enjoy that thing.
Very good. So that's cross country, and we'll hand it over to Cole to tell us about one of the events you'll be racing in, short track cross country. How's that different than cross country, and describe it to the best of your ability?
So short track is quite a bit different. It's, as in the name says, it's a lot shorter. So this is like a 20-minute race, and a much shorter lap, like a 2 to 3 minute lap time. So it's much more tactical, like when you're racing against other athletes. So like where you want to attack on the climbs, or like how long into the race you want to wait to make your move. And so it's often a sprint finish, and yeah, it's just like a much more sprinty type of effort. So yeah.
So now we'll head to what's known as the gravity events. And Kara, tell us about downhill. You know, what are the fans watching when they're checking out downhill?
Yeah, so I'm pretty new to downhill. I've only done it twice, but we have some pretty good downhill racers. So basically, like if it was a World Cup, it would probably be about 3-4 minutes. But at Nationals, I think it might be a little shorter than that. But downhill is basically the name. You go downhill as fast as you can. And it's a really technical kind of race because it's not like, it's a bit of strength, but it's mostly who can ride rocks, roots, steep chutes as fast as they can. And I kind of think it's like who's willing to go, like put themselves down the hill like as fast as they can. So yeah, that's basically it.
Appreciate that. Kara will be racing in downhill along with dual slalom, cross country, and short track cross country. And speaking of dual slalom, Nicole Bradbury, tell us about it.
I mean, I'm also really new to gravity events, especially dual slalom, but basically what that is, there's 2 tracks that go down a hill, like parallel to each other, so like right next to each other. They're very similar. Usually one side might be a little bit slower, but so you'll have a qualifier which decides who races who in like the next rounds. So like whoever qualifies first with the fastest time, they'll race the slowest person who qualifies. And they take a certain amount of people. I think it's 32. And yeah, so they'll put like first with last person, and then it just goes down the list until the goal is to usually get like the top 2 qualifiers racing the finals together. So yeah, it's usually about 30 seconds. There's no like, usually I don't think ever like roots or like huge rocks or anything. It's usually just like berms, some jumps, and it's fast, but yeah, I'm pretty new to it, so.
Yeah, very good. So the exciting dual slalom along with downhill, cross country, and short track cross country. You'll be racing all 4 of those disciplines this weekend.
Yes.
Very good. Best of luck there. Well, let's send it back over to Owen Clark because there's one other event as the championships culminates on Sunday, which is the exciting team relay. And you know, if there's one event you want to make your way out to Ride Rock Creek for, it's probably the team relay. Tell us why.
Yeah, so team relay is super fun because it's essentially like a 100-meter running relay race, but on a bike. And the lap's super short. Sometimes different relay races have different length laps, but for this one it's probably like 4 minutes. And so each person sends out 1 rider at a time. You basically kill yourself for 4 minutes, and pass on the, like, tap your next teammate. They go kill themselves for 4 minutes, and there's 4 people on the team, and whatever team comes through first wins. And I think this year we have a pretty good team, so we're all really excited on having a crack at trying to win.
So those are your 4 disciplines plus the team relay culminating on the Sunday. Coach Purley, if you can take our audience through sort of the race schedule, if fans do want to make their way out there to ride Rock Creek, kind of take us through the week for us.
Sure, yeah. So Nationals in total is 4 days, so Thursday through Sunday. There is racing, like final racing, not just practice on every single day, just different disciplines based on the day. So Thursday is first for us with starting off with dual slalom. Those dual slalom finals are starting at 2:30 that afternoon. Kind of like Nicole was describing, it's really fun racing. You can see pretty much the entire track from standing in one spot, looking up the mountain usually and seeing racers come down side by side. It's pretty similar to like ski slalom perhaps, and I mean, and the way it's structured, like Nicole had mentioned, is just like you think of a Final Four bracket or something like that, where riders start in larger groups and keep not getting knocked out until it comes down to a final, and it's pretty exciting. Jump into Friday with the cross country. That's at 8 a.m. for the men's varsity race, and then at noon for the women's varsity race. Those are both going to be really exciting to watch. We're going to have probably running 12 to 14, it's kind of a guess, for minutes for each lap. So even though they do go out on a long lap and disappear into the woods, you see them lap through pretty frequently throughout the course of that hour 20, hour 30-minute time. So those are the 2 final races happening on Friday. Then on Saturday, we do the downhill seating is in the morning. So this is determining what order the downhillers are going to start on the following morning. The fastest races are going to go at the very end, so the fastest seating times. Even though that's not finals racing, the seating is still really fun to spectate and watch. See a bunch of riders ripping downhill really fast. Then let's see here. I don't have the Sunday right in front of me, but then we have, let's see, so short track for the men's is varsity is happening at 1:45. And then the women are racing at 3:15. Like Cole mentioned, that short track racing is super, super fun to watch, really exciting. It's such a short event that there is no downtime, no recovery. It's all extremely, very, very intense racing the entire time. And each of those races is probably going to be 20 to 30 minutes in total length. And then Sunday we wrap up the whole weekend with starting off at downhill finals. Those begin at 10:15 and they just kind of roll through. Usually probably going to be a minute gap in between each rider, and they'll go through slowest seating time to fastest seating time. So what the idea is that as the racing progresses, you'll see the speed pick up through each run. So that'd be really fun to watch. And then, yeah, as you had mentioned, the team relay for varsity is going to go off at 1:45. In total, that race is probably going to be 20 or so minutes, maybe a little bit less than that probably, based on how they run the course. And team relay is, arguably, as you had mentioned, one of the most spectator-friendly events out there, especially because you can only run 4 riders, but we'll have every other team member out there of our 32-person roster, screaming at him, yelling, cheering him on. We're going to have a bunch of folks from the community, hopefully some more folks from the school out there and doing that for all the events. But yeah, ending with the team relay is usually a really good way to cap off the weekend.
Outstanding. So all sorts of opportunities for locals who want to check out things at Ride Rock Creek. Coach, before we turn over to some questions from the audience, one last one. You mentioned the entire roster being out there. That's another unique opportunity since the race is so close. But tell us about the team at large. How many student athletes are actually going to be racing in the national championships, and how this is so much a team effort.
It definitely is. Yeah, I mean, as Owen had mentioned earlier, cycling is generally thought of as a pretty individual sport, and most of our athletes, before they join the collegiate team here, have grown up through juniors, high school, whatever. Their racing experience so far has been pretty individualized. There are high school teams now, which is fantastic. It's really, really growing from a high school standpoint, but here with our team environment is a very different thing than those other teams where, they're living together here in a dorm just like any other more traditional sports team. It feels much more like you're part of an actual team here. So we have just over 30 student athletes in the team total this year. We're going to have 20 total racing this coming weekend. But it is absolutely, every one of those students, that 30 plus, are a really important part of our team. They're a very, very close group, which I'm grateful for, which creates, as a byproduct of that, a fantastic atmosphere. And the competition is always fierce to be able to make that nationals team because we can only start so many. But all those students are super important to the program, and they're going to be represented well by the students we have racing.
Outstanding, joined by head cycling coach Brad Purley and also Brevard College student athletes Nicole Bradbury, Kiara Lilac, Owen Clark, and Cole Punchard. We have students here as well from the sports media and broadcasting class here at Brevard College, and we're going to give them an opportunity to ask any questions they may have thought of during these opening statements, but also may have prepared in advance. Do we have any questions from the students? Here we go.
Yeah, so this is just a question for anyone who'd want to answer. It's pretty broad. For mountain biking, what does the injury risk look like for something like that, and what kind of precautions do you take as far as injury goes?
Injuries are a pretty large part of the sport, unfortunately, really across the disciplines. I mean, when we're talking about mountain biking, of course, specifically here, but even within mountain biking, like we've been talking about, we have the endurance events, we have the gravity events, and with each of those comes its own different type of risk. We've had, I would say, a better year than we've had in the past few, just in terms of the injuries we've sustained. We have an example up here, Cole, trying to get his broken hand back to 100% right now, but we're never completely healthy, I would say, unfortunately, but it's just trying to manage the best we can. When riders are racing, of course, they're wearing, like you would think of your helmet for endurance events. For the gravity events, they're going to be wearing like full face helmets that look like a motorcycle helmet, oftentimes body armor along with that, knee guards, shin guards, elbow pads, you name it. So it's definitely a part of the sport that is, never completely out of your mind, your mindset, but we try to, avoid that the best we can, and, make the best decisions possible to try to have that. But yeah, it's a huge part of it. Crashing happens a lot, unfortunately, and so do mechanicals and all sorts of different things. Yeah.
Additional questions?
This is a question for anyone up there. How do y'all prepare y'all's bike for like this big of a weekend?
Basically, in terms of the bike, you basically just want to make sure everything's working properly. A bike is such a complicated thing. Like, even I've had so many bikes, I don't even understand most of it, but there's so much, like, you got to make sure the shifting's working. A lot of these new bikes are actually like, they have batteries on them, so you got to charge them. If you got died in the middle of a race, you would not be very happy. You got to make sure your air pressure in your wheels are what PSI you'd want them at, depending on the course. Make sure your brakes aren't rubbing. That would be some extra resistance you wouldn't like. There's so much to make sure it's clean. A lot of people will try to make them as light as possible because that'll be more efficient up climbs. There's lots of things like that. I'm trying to think what else. Make sure your brakes work. That's a good point. Zoo is a fantastic mechanic. He's right behind you guys. He makes sure everyone's bike is working fantastically. Last year and the year before, it was snowing, and everyone's bikes were a mess. And thanks to him, everyone's bikes worked fantastically well for everyone's race. So yeah, thank you, Zoo.
Matthew Zuniga, the team mechanic this weekend, big part of the team. Another question.
Okay, mine was for Cole and Kiara. I was wondering how many people compete in y'all's individual disciplines. And then, Kiara, how long does your event last?
So for short track, it's around the same as cross country. It depends. I think the start list is at 70 right now or something. So that's how many entries there are for short track, and then
it's probably like similar for downhill. It's probably similar across all the events. Only very few do all of them. Yeah, and downhill is about like 3 to 4 minutes long. Yeah.
So this is a question for anybody. I know Coach kind of touched on the course. When it comes to different courses, do you guys scout out certain things on the course, or are there certain advantages that you guys can find in terrains to help you out?
Yeah, there's definitely different, different parts of the courses will suit different riders. So some people are better at climbing, so they'll look at climbs to see where they could push other riders or where they could probably get away from the group. Some people are better at descending, or at least like in regards to cross country. Some people might be better at like technical stuff, so they'll look at places that are technical on the course where they could get away from other riders or just like recover more than other riders that might not be as skilled as them. A lot of the time, if the course is really technical, we'll stop and look at some sections, and we can look at different ways to get through that part, especially if it's like a harder section of the course. A lot of the time, I know for downhill, people do track walks, so the first time they see the course, they're walking, and that just lets them, I guess, you like walk down slower than you would be riding by a lot, so you get to actually like stop and look at everything and see things you might not see while you're riding. So yeah, I guess just practicing, going over things again and again. Yeah.
All right, so this question is for you, Coach. So I've talked to a few other cyclists. What do you think, like, what's the team's mentality going into this? It's pretty big. They all seem pretty excited, but what would you say the team's mentality is?
I think really positive and motivated, honestly. There's a whole lot of excitement for nationals every year, but when it is local, it definitely adds a couple, it adds extra motivation for sure. We've also never had the opportunity before too to have the entire team be at the event. Since it's usually so far away, a lot of the riders that are not racing are usually following along by calling and texting and watching videos and different things like that. So that element alone, I think, adds a lot of motivation. And then on top of that, we're a really competitive program. Just the mentality, I think that's a huge component of our program here. And yeah, we're of course want to get some success at that national level, which every year brings its own challenges and different, the fields are very deep in terms of depth. I think Cole had mentioned there's like 70 roughly registered for all the endurance events across the board. And all of those riders and different teams are there because they've qualified and they're at that level. So yeah, our program, we certainly want to be able to compete against the best folks out there, and that provides a whole lot of motivation for our crew, without a doubt. So yeah, overall, if I had to put one word, I'd say motivated. Yeah.
Another question for you, Coach. What are some goals you've set for the team heading into the national championships?
What I've told them and what I really believe is that if each and every student focuses on day by day what exact race they're doing and only on that event at that time, and is able to give 100% and leave it all out in the course, then that is my expectation. And if we do that, I believe that's going to be successful alone. Results, of course, will follow if that happens, but we're really going to try to simplify things. I think it's easy, especially even you look at the schedule. There's a lot going on. I think it's easy to kind of get somewhat overwhelmed. So I think simplifying it, having the mindset of taking it day by day, event by event, and giving like full effort and full focus on that event before moving on to the next thing, and before worrying about what any of their teams are doing and any other racers. We don't care about that. We have to be very focused on what you're doing at that time. And I think if we're able to accomplish that, then results are going to follow. So that's definitely the goal we have.
Another question for you, Coach. Well, you kind of answered it right there, but I was going to ask, does any other college or racer give any worry to you about taking the national championship win?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, there are, on paper, there are multiple teams that are favorites to win, and we are not one of those teams right now. I mean, I know that there's a team from Colorado that's won the past at least 2 years, maybe if not more. So they have a streak going right now of their overall team title. But this year, none of that really matters at this point. It's a fresh year. It's a new location. It's new racers. Every year, programs graduate riders. It's not like professional team where you're retaining the same riders for a number of years. Here we have, because they're college students, there's a cycle, right? We go through. We're always bringing in new students. We're always graduating students. So. There are quite a few teams that are very, very strong and much larger than ours. I mean, I think it was Nicole or somebody down there mentioned that very few riders do multiple events. I mean, these riders here, some of our athletes are going to be doing both sides, the endurance and the gravity, which is not common. We won't have many competitors that are doing that. Most teams are going to show up with a full roster in each discipline, in each race, and those riders are dedicated to those events and those events only on this particular weekend. So, there are a lot of much larger teams we're going to be competing against that are, I would say heavy favorites for sure. But I think we can thrive in that environment, honestly. Yeah, I think it's a good thing.
Another question for you, Coach. How has prep been like? How have y'all did prep differently this year? Like prepare for it for national?
So one of the big things, we're really big on trying to not have students be like over-raced and do too many events leading into it, which sometimes means the difficult decision of having students sit out races, in an effort to be as rested as possible, be as healthy as possible. Like we just talked about a few minutes ago, the amount of injuries and crashing that happens in our sport is unfortunately pretty high. So that's also a factor too. So as Owen had mentioned, there's the technical bike handling skill component to the sport, but also the fitness side, and then throwing in there the incidents and crashes and things that happen. We try to be, especially this year, I think we've tried to be as careful as possible with making sure that when our students are racing, based on the student, based on what they need at that time, making sure that it's going to be beneficial. I think just trying to be as healthy as possible. Last year we were going at this time we were going into nationals with we were all crammed in a van for 2.5 days driving to Durango, Colorado, but also we had a lot of sickness we were carrying with us. We had some injuries we were trying to, get past and different things. So that illness and injuries are certainly they're not non-existent this year, but I would say we're in a much better spot, at least compared to last year. So, you gotta be healthy to perform, and that's kind of what we're shooting for. We're never gonna be 100%, but hopefully we can be close, yeah.
Quick question about the difference in elevation. So knowing the past few years, racing has been done at around 10,000 feet elevation, which takes several months to acclimate to. How much of an advantage for the team is it this year to be able to race at sea level and not have to drive to Colorado and then be less acclimated than, say, schools living at elevation?
Yeah, so the not having to travel is definitely an advantage for sure. The not being at a super high altitude, being at sea level here, I wouldn't say necessarily that's an advantage, but we're not at a disadvantage as we had been in the past couple of years. Us going out there to race at such high elevation is scientifically a disadvantage. It's pretty clear. So now we're all at sea level. Yeah, that's much more in our wheelhouse, hopefully. Yeah.
I got a question for the players. Any one of y'all? How important is getting a good seating for y'all? How much can that help you throughout the week, depending on how high or how low you are?
Sorry, did you say seating?
Seating.
So that's really important, especially for the events like cross country and dual slalom, I guess short track too. For dual slalom, your qualifying run determines who you race against in the early rounds. So if you qualify really well, let's say you qualify first, you end up racing the person who qualified 32nd, which means technically you should be able to move on to the next round, versus if it was the opposite, you're going against the fastest person in the race, so that's a tough situation to be in. And then for the other events, the endurance events, your start position on the grid, it's kind of like F1, where if you are on the front row, you have a really big advantage over people at the back, because people at the back will have to move through 70 riders if they want to try and do well in the race, versus you can have a clear open road start if you're at the front. So it's a big advantage to be at the front. for the rest of the race.
Time for maybe one or two more questions. Any more questions from the sports media and broadcasting students? All right, I've got one more. We touched on this a little bit. I do want to talk about this, Canadian connection we have here at Brevard College. All four of you are from the province of Ontario. So why don't we just kind of go down the line? What does it mean, one, to come from Canada? Owen, you represented your nation at the, most recent World Championships, but also, to have this connection of, fellow Canadian student athletes all racing for the same team here in Brevard, North Carolina.
Yeah, so it's a thing that started a few years ago. First person was Tyler Orschel, who actually won a couple titles a few years ago. And then there's been like a string of Canadians that have kind of, Brad's done well at recruiting to get on the team. And I don't know, it's a cool like second home to be down in Brevard. It's a really cool place to train and be at school. And I think for the past Canadians who haven't had the chance to race at, like Kyle was saying, sea level, they've been at a disadvantage for all 4 years of their collegiate chances. I feel like this year and hopefully next year is our chance to kind of like, I don't know, prove ourselves and do it for them. So, yeah.
For me, it's pretty special because you grow up in Ontario. During the winters, it's obviously very cold and a lot of snow. So coming down here, it's quite nice change, with the moderate temperatures in the winter. So you're able to ride all year round, and now with more Canadians on the team, you grow up riding with these people. So it's nice to have some of your friends down here that you can connect with and stuff like that.
Yeah, I also think it's cool that we've kind of grown up a bit together, through Ontario cycling programs and now Cycling Canada programs. Me and Nicole have been racing each other since we were 15 or 16. So it's cool that we were both able to come down here and continue racing, and now we get to represent Brevard 30 minutes away. So that's super cool. And to be surrounded by a bunch of Canadians, I think it's funny sometimes that we have our own kind of slang language, and then if we say something in front of Americans or oh, Canadians, anything like that, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd say all the same things about having the Ontario programs and Cycling Canada programs. I've traveled with Kira and Cole and Owen at different times for different stuff. And yeah, I think it's pretty cool that originally started with Tyler, and then I guess people started coming here because they had some connection to whoever was already here, and now we're kind of getting people from all over the country instead of just Ontario. So now we have someone from the other side of Canada, in British Columbia, and I think hopefully we'll get more riders from around all of Canada. And yeah, I like the team environment. It's pretty cool, and definitely cool having a bunch of people that I know pretty well.
Very good. One final question. This will be for Coach Brad Purley. Coach, a lot of folks behind the scenes make something like this possible. We talked about the entire team and that kind of thing, but you've got all sorts of supporters, all sorts of sponsors, all sorts of folks, who have been supporting the team over the years. Not to mention a great alumni base with Brevard College cycling as well. A message to that group as we're on the eve of this unique opportunity, college national championships just around the corner from us here.
For sure, yeah. I mean, like you had mentioned, that we have a fantastic group of a network of folks in the community here, including faculty, staff, students on campus here, of course, that are very supportive and excited to be able to cheer on these students. A lot of alumni that a lot of our alumni live in this area. They kind of fall in love with this place and they want to stay and live here after they graduate. But there are a lot of other folks too that have kind of spread out across the country and across the world, really, that are going to be following along as they do every year and cheering our students on, and excited to see the continued growth of the program, continuing to see where our students are coming in from around the world. And yeah, just following along like you had mentioned, which is we're really grateful for that. And then I also certainly want to make the point too that we have 4 students up here right now, but We really have just over 30 that are all a major part of that program we have here too. So I'm thankful to that group as a whole for the attitude and the motivation, the excitement, regardless if they're racing this weekend or not. It's still very much going to be a team effort for everybody. We want to extend our thank yous, our gratitude and excitement to those folks, and hopefully you all will see out the races, or at least after.
Outstanding. The Collegiate Mountain Bike National Championships at Ride Rock Creek in nearby Zirconia, North Carolina. That's just 23 miles from right here in the heart of the Brevard College campus. Nicole Bradbury, Kiara Lilac, Cole Punchard, Owen Clark, Coach Brad Purley, best of luck this week at the National Championships.